Raj and DK, good to see you guys, and thank you for bringing back India's favorite show, The Family Man Season 2. I just thought I'd get you into the mood by wearing a Avengers T-shirt, considering considering you're going to do the Russo brothers India version of the Citadel. How does that feel, first and foremost? I mean, that's a huge one, not just for you guys, but also for the country. And a duo, an Indian filmmaking duo, getting to do that. That must be huge on your portfolio.
Yeah, it was awesome when they offered us this season, this series. It was pretty cool. When sat down with in LA, we sat down with all their team and watched them work, develop watch them develops their stuff, and it was great interacting.
Figure out how to do a jugaad way of doing it here.
There's got to be a jugaad. If it's India, it's got to be a jugaad, DK. Continue, Raj, you're saying.
Yeah, no, that summed it up.
Why say more?
Yeah, why say more?
But hats off to you guys. Your D2R Films banner was launched during the lockdown. You want to tell me the focus behind it? Because I find it really, really interesting.
So D2R Films was there earlier too. There was that's what we produced Stree under. The film Stree was produced under that banner. D2R Indie is another subsidiary we started in lockdown. We thought we should encourage upcoming filmmakers. And so and it was great time to do it because
and grassroots filmmaking, more like grassroots filmmaking with literally nothing except your wits to make a film, kind of a thing, the basics of it.
So it gave us good time, taking us back to how we started as independent filmmakers. So we wanted to start pushing as much as possible. So we were talking to a lot of filmmakers during the lockdown, gave us all the time to set that up, and something is going to come out of it pretty soon.
Yeah, and it's almost as though you're a good luck charm for Shreya Dhanvantari, because post Family Man season 1, she's gone on to higher things. Scam has become so big. Plus, apparently you mentored The Viral Wedding, which is that show.
Yeah, we had everybody was going through a low phase, of course, no exceptions, especially actors who are at the mercy of a show to start or a film to start. So Shreya is a very multi-talented girl, and she writes. She's an author too. So I said, why don't you write and direct something? And so we were discussing as to how would you do something in the lockdown. So we have phones, we have ourselves, so you can step out, so you can still film yourself. So the idea came from a micro series, where you do snippets of it. So that was something, and she just wrote it overnight and took over and hit it off.
I noticed that an actor called DK acted in season 1 of Family Man. More than what Hitchcock would do. It wasn't like a blink and miss appearance. There was some champagne and some flamboyance and things like that. Are we going to see more of that? I mean, why waste time with other actors?
Yeah, Manoj kind of takes a dig at him, saying that if you start doing it, what will happen to all of us?
I'm holding back now. I'm holding back a little bit. I mean, I don't want to steal work from all these actors like Manoj Bajpayee and all these people, but yeah, no, I mean, actually casting myself in that show was a bit of a serendipitous, I don't know, accident. Happy, unhappy, I'll let the audience decide, but it was an accident because whoever we were supposed to cast on that day, kind of something went wrong, didn't show up, and we had a standing set. Either we canceled the shoot or I had to step into the shoes and take up the role.
And he graciously stepped in.
Yeah. And
wait a minute, are you saying that you haven't written him into season 2? That's very poor writing.
No, I do have a couple of scenes.
There is a
no spoilers here, but I do have a couple of scenes in season 2. But,
good. Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't.
That would be a
too
big
much
spoiler
damage.
if you give that away. That would have been the whodunit of Family Man.
As we were writing it, the fun part was as we were writing one of the drafts earlier, it wasn't there, right? So we weren't thinking about it. Then we said, oh, you know what? It should be there, this part of it. And so we were writing something else. And that means entry of DK again. So DK is like, oh, shit, I got to do this again.
I got to do this all over again. And yeah, my thought process when I'm acting is first and foremost, I hope I don't screw this up.
Krishna, come on, rate him on a scale of 1 to 5. Don't even do what people do on 1 to 10, but rate him on 1 to 5, please.
Who?
Raj, rate DK on 1 to 5, please.
Rate
Acting
DK
skill.
1 to 5.
Acting.
3?
He's rating or me? I'm rating him, right?
You're rating it. Yeah, you're rating it. He can't rate himself. Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks he's at a 4, but he's at a 2, I think.
Okay, there's a 2.
And then after the edit, it becomes 3.
After some ruthless editing.
After some ruthless guys, everyone has opened up now to the idea of doing an OTT series. Prime example is you guys having signed Shahid Kapoor. But back then, was it easy to sign Manoj Bajpayee before Family Man season 1? Or did it take a lot of convincing, a lot of sessions? I mean, he's a thinking man's actor. Take me through that.
Well, I mean, I think that question goes both ways, right? There was no precedent for that. So I'm sure Manoj Bajpayee did a lot of thinking before doing that plunge. And us also, we had our own thought processes before deciding to make a series and all that. But for the convincing part of it, I think there wasn't much of that at all. I'm sure he thought about it. He weighed the pros and cons, but he liked the subject and he felt that this is something he needs to do, regardless of the medium. And now I guess medium is the greatest thing,
It was a very quick pitch with Manoj. It was like a very quick pitch. Before in 10 minutes, we were like, let's do this. But to get to that point, a lot of people, it took us to cast other characters. It took a while too, because not everybody was open for it. But we were waiting to do a series for almost 3 years before that. And only when this happened, we were glad that this happened and we jumped on it.
Now, it's wonderful to see actresses who work predominantly down south being cast by you guys. Priyamani was absolutely fabulous in season 1. Now you've cast the lovely Samantha Akkineni. Is that because you guys keep a keen eye on films from the region, from south? Or is it just you being clannish because you're Telugu?
That's the
first time I'm taking it in a positive way.
Yeah, of course it is. It's positive. Why not?
I'm
a Bombay Tamil, and I make no bones that the admiration for South stars.
No, I'm saying it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It is a good thing. No, I'm sure it's both. It's both, that the fact that there is so much to tell, so many stories to tell, and so many actors to exploit. And I'm so glad that OTT gives us that platform to that freedom. At least we discovered that freedom in the very first season, that, hey, you know what? I'm going to go away. Not just Hindi, it's going to be everybody. So we kind of cast Neeraj Madhav from Kerala, and we had even Kashmiri actors. So wherever we were, we wanted to be true to the region as much as we could. So that extends in getting Samantha into season 2.
Yeah, but I love your writing. I mean, you don't take a South Indian actress and then suddenly completely flip the milieu. I mean, she was still a Bombay Tamil. You know what I mean? Somebody who has an influence of living in another region. Without giving too much of the story or any spoilers away, what can we expect from Samantha's part? I mean, other than her being the mystery element, is there something you can tell us, please?
Samantha is playing a very intense. What can I say? Intense rebel, like a militant outfit.
Yeah, intense, and there's a lot of angst and backstory for her, and she's an extremely dangerous person to mess with in the story.
And she surprised and shocked us with matching up to our expectations in terms of action, the physical action. So because she had never done before, but we had written a character that was super physical when it comes to action, and she aced it. So that's going to be something to watch out. That's going to be the X factor to the season 2, I hope.
That's interesting. And really, your teasers for Musa being back is just fabulous. It's got the trademark Raj and DK wit in it. Fabulous. I mean, the Indian audience didn't know what hit us when we saw Neeraj Madhav, because he was largely an unknown entity. I mean, first and foremost, where do you find this guy? I mean, he was not on most people's radar. He just exploded on as Musa. And is he actually Malayali? Because he got that accent bang on.
He's a Malayali. Yeah, that was one of the things we had in mind. Even when writing, we were writing pan-India characters, as in people from regions. And the one thing we knew we were going to do, we didn't know who we were going to cast, but we just knew we were going to cast actors authentically for the region, for the language. That's one thing we kind of stuck to, even in season 2. Yeah.
So, another thing that's very, potent about your work is the exploration of the alter ego of a man. I mean, Srikanth, for example, has a completely different life. In the first season, we saw how even the kids were taking the piss out of him. And then, suddenly there's this other side. And I see that in other facets of your work. For example, A Gentleman, where Sid's character. Does that excite you guys? Or is it just one of these two projects that I'm talking about how men or human beings have this completely other side to them, in their day-to-day life?
It is, it does fascinate us a lot, and we'd like to do that because there's so many facets to a character, and you don't get to exploit every single time. But the idea, when you start looking at the other facet, you might find something very fascinating too, and especially when you juxtapose a little more polar opposite sides to them, it makes the character super exciting. So that's, the idea is always there. It's the story that we need to find to put that character in.
And how long did Family Man season 1 take you to write, and Family Man season 2 take you to write? Because there are so many twists and turns. I mean, even a small thing like, for example, the regular problems in a marriage. The fact that in season 1, Manoj meets an ex, which is Gul. I mean, nothing really happens. And then Priyamani herself, in that half turbulent marriage, goes and has one escapade with Sharad. These things, do you wake up one morning and say, hey, I found a new peg for Manoj's character. I found a new peg for Priya's character. How does that work? Because it's almost as though you have this organic story going and suddenly, boom, poof, something happens in a Raj DK story.
I mean, we worked a lot on season 1. It was just 3 of us, me, DK, and Suman initially, just sitting in a room and the wall covered with post-its and figuring out what to do with each character. But one thing we wanted to do was give well-rounded characters and a lot of subplots, because that's the fun of making a series. Is you don't have to stick to one storyline. There's a lot of plots, there's a lot of side plots that you can exploit. So we really enjoy taking these tangents and finding ways to make it a more exciting experience.
With duos and trios, there's always this curiosity. I asked Shankar Hasan Loy this, and I said, are there times when you want to kick each other's butt? And Ehsan said, for example, I will just walk out of the studio and take a walk and come back, let off some steam and things like that. How's that working relationship between the two of you guys? I mean, are there ebbs, flows? Are there potent ones, or is it like, it's okay, man? So do you have fights at all?
Yeah, no, we go behind the camera, fight, and come back in front of the camera.
It's been a while. So it's been a long since we know each other from college. Yeah. So we've fought enough to not fight too much anymore.
Yeah.
So you've worked out that middle ground.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to go around. I want to just talk about a couple of the other interesting characters. I mean, Sharib was already a national award winner by the time Family Man 1 happened. But the fact that, he's one guy who can just tell Manoj's character, Srikanth's character, what really should be done, calls his bluff, as it were. Was Sharib your first choice, or did you go through many auditions before you fixed that character?
No, in fact, Sharib was the first choice. We didn't know much about him. Of course, I loved him in Filmistan, right? Is it called Filmistan?
It was.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. National award. Yeah.
And but we didn't know much about him, so we were just figuring out who to cast. In fact, the funny anecdote is that I was shooting in Chanderi for Stree. And we're in the middle of sets of Stree, and one night I've got these names and people and shortlist, and Rajkumar was next to me, and I was like, I was just watching something, and he said, "Sir, what are you watching?" I said, "I'm figuring out who's going to be JK for our series." And as I was just on the very first one, and he saw Sharib and said, "That's it. Take him, lock him. You're not going to regret this." So I think that kind of gave us a push to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Basically, there were a lot of people who were auditioning, and we were looking at auditions, but the one we picked happens to be Sharib, and
Yeah.
Mukesh Chabra was, obviously he's the casting director, and
Yeah, and he always
he
finds
had
his
a lot of people, a lot of innovative people he put. It's hard to pick and choose when Mukesh gives you a list because they're all pretty good. That's what it's. Yeah.
I don't know, Raj and DK, if you've seen your friend Saif Ali Khan's Tandav, which is streaming on Prime. Have you caught an episode? Have you been too busy? This and that. Because after watching it, I again asked myself the question saying, will there be another goagoagone? And that's a question you get asked a lot. There's first and foremost, have you seen Tandav? What do you think of Saif? And you guys have had a long association. I mean, there's been happy ending in between, and now people keep talking about the sequel. Talk to me about that.
Saif is a super versatile actor. He's one of those guys who can surprise you, and he's also really exciting to work with. He's crazy. So especially, and he excels. We feel as directors excels when there is a like a persona to the character. Where
something out of the ordinary.
He aces it. So I'd love to work with him again, and goagoagone 2 would always be a great thing to do. Right now, I mean, I'm sure when the right time comes, something will come out of that. I mean, I know we get asked that question a lot, but there's so many other stories we want to tell too. So we're trying to see when to do what.
Yeah, but it is a cult film. You can't live that down ever, and why would you want to? But have you seen the teaser? Have you seen the promos, or caught an episode of Tandav?
I've seen the trailer of Tandav.
Trailer, but not watched.
You like what you see? You like what you see? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new thing for him. I saw familiar grounds of Pataudi Palace in the trailer. So he was we had hung out with him in the palace earlier. So it's like more personal to us watching that, so that you see the behind the scenes and the guy, and you're seeing this brand new avatar of Saif. So looks very exciting.
You don't know how many of the cast members have complained to me saying they haven't seen the palace because their portions are not being filmed there. And the ones that were filmed were, absolutely fascinated by that. So lucky you guys having gone and hung out there. You've been keeping yourself busy, guys. I mean, I love Glitch, which is part of Amazon's Paused. How's it working on someone else's story vis-a-vis working on your own story?
We try to make it our own. It's always a concept that excites us, and Reshu wrote a really cool story, and we said, wow, this is pretty dystopian yet uplifting. So so we said that's right up our alley, and she also knew that this is something we'd be excited about. So once we got it, you kind of make it your own. That's what you tend to do. Any director should do.
It's a new experimental kind of a take, and we were also having fun making it, and tried to do something we've not done before as well.
With the restrictions of the crew, and we wanted to play with the format. We wanted to give a visual storytelling versus actually like a proper storytelling. So things like that.
Everybody, all the actors who work with you, I mean, talk about your sense of humor. Saif himself has such a wonderful sense of humor. I see that in aspects of your work. Manoj might not have that wicked sense of humor, but he also talks about that. So obviously, humor keeps you guys going.
Manoj is very witty too. Manoj is super witty, and it was fun to see him do the comedy, if you want to call it comedy, in the Family Man. It was nice to see him do that. And Samantha actually summarizes it very nicely, that when she was rehearsing for a scene and she was really, really nervous about her first scene with him, she said, I'm going to learn all these lines, and I've been rehearsing, I have a sleepless night, and I'm going to go in there, and he's just going to stare at me, and one look, and he's going to steal the scene.
Or he's going to throw a one-off line or something that's going to be like, oh, that's really good. And it's like, okay,
that
it's your scene now.
Yeah, but it's always good to keep the humor going, man. I mean, we live in tough times, so it's great. Now, listen, you finished 10 years in the business, 10 years of great movies. Thanks, Raj and DK, for all the joy you've given us. Is there a note to yourself in 2021? That's got to be my last question to you guys. Do you have a diary which you write it down? Do you tell yourself? Maybe you can take both of you take that individually, yeah. And along with that, also, if you picked up a skill in lockdown, a lot of actors and directors are learning new software, cooking skills, this that. So how's the lockdown been in 2021?
The learning thing going forward is stay true to what we've been doing, because that seems to be paying off, and I'm glad we did. What I learned in lockdown is I became pretty good at sweeping and swabbing the floors.
DK.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't learn much during it, but I mean, it was a good opportunity to catch up. Catch up with initially the first couple of months of lockdown gave us an opportunity to catch up with the backlog of work because we're kind of swamped. But afterwards, once that's happening, I mean, you appreciate the time you're spending with the family, and that was the best thing about it. That's when you kind of realize that you've been spending so much time working. Maybe you're not spending time enough with your family.
And note to yourself for 2021, what's it going to be, DK?
I don't know, be healthier. I mean, I think that everybody has kind of learned from 2020 that, this virus is a pretty unforgiving one. If you're unhealthy, it gets you.
Guys, can't wait to see Family Man Season 2 in its entirety. I'm going to binge watch it. Like I said, thank you for the joy and keep making these wonderful movies and series that you do. Raj and DK, bye. Cheers.
Thank you, Hrishi.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One world, your station. Radio 1.